give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning and welcome to TalkTainmentRadio.com. You are now listening to the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and you are listening to it via TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. If you would like to join in today's conversation, our topic really is kind of open in that Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby will talk white supremacy, which is racism, and you will be able to call in at 1-877-932-9766. You can also hear the program by going to YouTube, type in the word Talktainment, hit the space bar, and then type in the word radio. After you do that, scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube, and you can watch and hear the live broadcast. While you're there, by the way, hit the subscribe button and the like button. You can also go to hear the replay of the show to the TalkTainmentRadio.com podcast, where you can hear the entire show. We would prefer, if you're going to listen to it that way, that you would do that. And you can also go to Facebook.com/Talktainment, and you can hear the program that way. By the way, we will have a special announcement this hour, and we may have 2 special announcements in this second hour for the broadcast, so you want to stay tuned for that. Mr. Fuller and I are going to chat about racism, which is white supremacy. Mr. Fuller is the author of the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept. From time to time, you will see that graphic on the YouTube channel if you have that, and also other things that will be shown on there depending upon the subject matter. Okay, let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Fuller, good morning.
Good morning.
And how are you?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Before we get right into the subject, let's jump on this quickly. In previous conversations that we have had on this show, you have said that in order for someone, a white person, to be called racist, another white person would have to identify them as a racist. Black people, in your suggestion, could not do that. Yesterday, Roseanne Barr, comedian, whatever she is, has been called out as a racist by the company that employs her, which did employ her, which was the Disney company, the head of that did that, and a few others all around the country. Mr. Fuller, what say you on that according to compensatory logic?
Well, that was a decision that was made. From what I can see, a white lady made some remarks about black people, either individually or directly, indirectly, collectively, that dissatisfied, apparently, a lot of black people, naturally, which could be understood from what I understand about what was said, and apparently, according to what I can see, white people made a decision that was a decision that she made that should be overruled, and that she should have to have her program on television canceled because of it. And so that's that up to this point.
Yes.
That's what I've observed.
Okay.
So, if the question is who did what and why, it's all obvious to me.
Yes.
That she made a decision to say some things that were disapproved of by the people who she was employed by.
Okay. But the question was, what you said up to this point is so far true. So no one is saying the who and the why, but you have said on other programs that it takes another white person to call another white person a racist, which the president of the Disney Corporation did, according to compensatory logic. And your suggestion that this white person called another white person racist, does that qualify?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Because there's in the system of white supremacy, racism doesn't exist as far as people talking about it unless the white supremacists say that it exists. Because the victims, who are the prisoners of war, the prisoners of the system of white supremacy, what they say doesn't matter about anything, whether it's about racism or anything else, unless the white supremacists, the prison masters, say it matters.
Okay.
Some time ago, someone coined a phrase just a few years ago, Black Lives Matter. But that doesn't mean anything unless the white supremacists say that Black Lives Matter in the system of white supremacy.
Okay. Alrighty. Let's do this. Let's take a phone call. Line number 1, you're on with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. What is your question for Mr. Fuller? Line number 1, you're on with...
Hello?
Yes, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? I hear someone.
Go ahead with your question. For Mr. Fuller, go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hi, okay. My name is Patrick. I'm calling from New York. I recently read Mr. Fuller's book, The Compensatory Code, and it's an excellent book, by the way. Anyone and everyone who is black should own that book. It is an excellent book. I just had the question. The edition that I read was the more recent edition, the 2016 edition. I wanted to know, in the book, you mentioned that you were writing this book for years. Like, what year exactly did you start writing this book? And what year exactly did you finish writing this book?
Oh, well, the first edition came out in 1984, but I started writing the first 2 or 3 pages about the latter part of 1956 and into 1957. And actually, it was about maybe 6 pages when I started writing it. I didn't start out to write a book. I started out to write a little pocket guide, you might say, just some papers, actually 6 pages that I had, that I carried around. They were tattered pages after a while, and I had to keep rewriting them. And then I added a few things, and it got to be 7 or 8 pages and whatnot. And it was a guide for myself about what to do on a daily basis. I was in Japan at the time, and I was in uniform, Air Force, at a place called Wajima Air Station. And so I was thinking seriously, because I was hearing reports about what was going on in Little Rock, Arkansas, 1957, about the Central High School students, the Little Rock Nine, they call them.
Yes, they did.
And so I was following that, and I was thinking about the entire race problem, not just within a school context, but within the context of everything going on in the world and all areas of activity. So I was thinking about maybe immediately I thought about the race problem can probably be solved, but it's got to be solved through individual action.
Yes.
What individual people do each and every day, both white and non-white.
Mm-hmm.
If white people are not getting along with black people on a day-to-day basis and having an understanding and looking out for each other and not having any animosity toward each other right where they are day to day, it doesn't make any difference what any politicians or preachers or anybody else says. It's not going to work. It's that day-to-day thing, that everyday thing that either makes white supremacy or it doesn't. So if white people and black people have a certain understanding with each other that is not constructive, that is hostile, but people are not being honest with each other and saying exactly what they really think and why they think it and all like that, this problem will never be solved. It'll just go on and on and on. And I'm talking about the people that you talk to if you're a non-white person walking around on this planet, the people that you do business with, the people that you interact with in a school or on a job or anywhere else in a white and non-white setting, if you are not straight up, I'm talking about everything. I came to that conclusion in 1957. If you are not clear, if anybody's being hypocritical about anything, you're not going to solve the race problem ever. Not ever. Because it all comes from people hiding what they really think. So, really, it's healthy, I say, for people to say, can I say what I really think? Just ask that question. I mean, it might hurt your feelings, but can I say what I really think about you and the things you do or the way that you look or whatever? Can I say what I really think?
Yes.
And can you say what you really think? And until we reach that point and be willing to not only accept that, be willing to really go for it all the way, full tilt.
Oh.
I came to that conclusion in 1957 that this problem cannot be solved. So I said, I will have a code for interacting with every white person that I encounter. Not only the white people, but every black person I encounter. I said, because that's the key. Have a code that you stick with. You don't deviate from it. A code of what? Thought, speech, and action. When this happens, I'll do this. When somebody says this, I will say this, this, and this. And stick with it. And try to make it as constructive as I possibly can. That, to me, is the solution. It was the solution in 1957, and it's the solution now. If that doesn't happen, we're not going to solve this problem. Having meetings and rallies and marching and all like that, if you can't get that day-to-day thing, that understanding on a minute-by-minute, day-to-day, in all areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, if you don't get an understanding in all of these, white and non-white, and be totally honest with each other about everything, don't hold back anything, this problem will never, ever be solved.
All righty. Let's go to the phone line. To line number 2. Okay, line number 2, you are on, and you can be heard with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. Go ahead with your question.
Good morning. I have 2 quick questions, if you don't mind, sir. Mr. Fuller, I heard on this radio station here that Talktainment has been carrying your show, The Compensatory Concept, for 43 years, since 1975. About 2 or 3 years ago or less, they started asking for donation to expand the show to 2 hours, and 2 hours was the way to go. And then they were saying donations were needed to keep it going for 2 hours, that second hour. Now I'm hearing announcements that donations are needed to keep the first hour going. Not necessarily a second hour, but just the first hour. And my question is, what do you think is the reason for this for these donations being requested, and what do you think is the reason that the first hour is now in jeopardy if this station doesn't get donations? What happened?
Mr. Fuller?
I do not have the answer to that question if you're addressing it to me, because I had nothing to do with any of it, the first hour or the second hour, other than I volunteered to be on the first hour, and then the donation equation came up later on, and Mr. Bobby informed me that that was something, a decision made by people at the station, so I'm not involved in that at all. I'm just a guest on the station.
Okay. Let me interject, ma'am, and for anybody else, let me be clear. The first hour is okay. You do not have to support the first hour. The information for the donation is only for the second hour. The first hour will continue. If there is any confusion with that, then I personally apologize. The first hour will continue. It's the second hour that the donations are requested.
Second question, Mr. Fuller, sir. Could you talk about why is it that when more than one person gets together, under the system of white supremacy, if more than one person gets together and talk, or is it 2 to 3 people, lying starts, or people stop being truthful? What is it about that dynamic in the system of white supremacy that makes that happen? 2 or 3 people, if they get together, one of them 3 gonna start lying. What is that true? First of all, and if it's true, why does that happen?
Well, it's not necessarily lying, but people just start jockeying for top billing. 2 or 3 people get together. I mean, we're taught to be not cooperative, but competitive in the system of white supremacy, because the system of white supremacy itself is competitive. It's about beating the other person. So when people have a conversation, right away, one person is trying to say, well, I'm going to beat you in this conversation. I mean, I'm going to find a reason. I mean, to make myself look great and make you look small. This is the whole concept of racism. Makes one person look great and the other person look or feel or operate in what they call a smaller position. I mean, a subordinate position, a weak position. One person strong, the other person weak. That's the whole concept of racism. That's what it's really all about. I mean, hey, if we all equal and whatnot. No, absolutely not. Somebody's got to be dominating somebody. Let's not have none of this equality nonsense. I mean, everybody cooperating equally, everybody sharing equally, everybody being able to come to the table and pick up what they necessarily have to have and whatnot in order to function. No, white supremacy is about, hey, you're going to always come up short around me. I'm going to see to it that I make all the decisions, I get the lion's share of everything, and you get whatever I throw you. That's the whole concept of racism. And millions of white people are taught this. Be competitive. They say, they call it friendly competition. But it turns out to be gunfire. I mean, that's why they worship guns. The white supremacists worship guns. They worship guns. That's their God. I mean, swords before they had guns. Any kind of killing. This is why most of your statues are where they praise people are dedicated to people that carry swords. People, not someone who cures cancer or something like that, they get honorable mention. But someone who carries a sword, someone who carries a gun, these are the heroes of the world. Somebody who kills people, kills them by the millions. Oh, boy, that's wonderful. That's a wonderful thing. Oh, we love it. General Patton used to say it, and that was a real live general who said, I love it so. May God help me, I love it so. battlefields, dead people lying all over the place.
The YouTube channel, and all you have to do is type in the word Talktainment, hit the space bar and type in the word radio, scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube, and watch the live broadcast. If you want to hear the program replay, you can also go to Talktainment.com for the podcast of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Fuller. You can also go to Facebook.com/Talktainment. You can hear that. And you can do this. You can also go to the Gmail, which I've been trying to get to, but we have to answer the calls first. The Gmail address is the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com, and I will try to read your Gmails. But first, let me go to the phone line. Line number 1. You are on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. I have 2 questions. Mr. Fuller, can you explain what you mean by the word system? And also, on a past broadcast, you made the remark that white supremacy is the only religion. Can you please elaborate on that statement?
Well, if there is a crime being committed, crimes have victims. So it's just a word that describes a person who is being denied something that
not victim, not the word victim. System.
Oh, okay. What was the word?
System.
Systems?
Oh, system.
Yes, system.
Oh, a system is when you have 2 or more people, and presumably thousands of people, in all areas of activity, on the same page, okay? And these people have become the most powerful people of any other people. That's why I say the system of white supremacy. See, it takes in millions. I don't know the exact number of white supremacists who are on the planet, but there is a sizable number that's enough to be supreme over the people who are classified as non-white. And they have set up a racist system, meaning they are in agreement with each other about dominating and mistreating people who have color in their skin. So that's what makes the system of white supremacy an entire system. It's a government. You can call it a government, you can call it a system, but usually a system means something that's well thought out and has covered everything, like an electrical system, like a plumbing system. You have a plumbing inspector who will come around and say, well, you got running water in the kitchen, but you don't have running water in the bathroom. An electrician will say, well, you have the lamps working in the living room, but they don't work in the bedroom. And the system is supposed to call for electricity all over the house. When you flip a switch, you're supposed to get electrical power. So this system is not up to code. In other words, it's not really working as a system, because you have to have a system for the entire house if you say that the system or the code is complete. for this house before we sell it. You can't have electricity in one room and you don't have it in the other when you have told people that you're going to sell them a house that's ready for them to move into. You got lights in the living room, you don't have them in the bedroom. The system is not complete. So it's the same way with political systems or religious systems. You have to be complete. You can't leave out anything. You have to have something that covers everything. That's when it becomes a system. So the people that believe in white supremacy invented a system that says we want to dominate and mistreat to our advantage everybody who is classified as non-white by us on the entire planet 24/7. So that called for some thinking, and they did a lot of thinking and had some trials and errors, presumably, like you do when you start anything, but finally they were able to pull it off.
And why do you call it a religion?
And you call it a religion because a religion is a strong belief backed up by action. That's why I say the system of white supremacy is the strongest religion that was ever invented in the minds of people. There's no religion in 2018 stronger than the religion of white supremacy. The white supremacists do not cut corners on their religion. They practice it 24/7 all over the world. Other people will say, well, you know, the conditions are not just right. I'm supposed to be doing this according to my religion, but, you know, times are kind of tough now, so I'm going to have to back off of some parts of my own religion. Or somebody's putting pressure on me, and I can't stand this kind of pressure, so I'm going to have to give up that part of my religion and get back to it later if I can. All right, but the white supremacists don't do that. They practice racism 24/7, and they don't back off of anything. They'll make some adjustments to make people think that they're doing it, but that's a part of their deceptive system. All right. But it is the strongest religion that was ever invented in the minds of people. A religion is a combination of having a strong belief and backing up that strong belief with action so that you practice it all the time. A religion that you do not practice all the time is not really a religion, because you leave out parts every now and then, depending on what your circumstances are. Or you say, well, I don't feel like practicing that part of it. I mean, you know, I don't feel up to it today. Mm-hmm. So you'll rule that out. Many people do that with their own religion. Your religion requires you to do a certain thing, but every now and then you don't do it. The white supremacists have the strongest religion because they practice all of their religion all of the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All around the world. Wow.
Yes, and that's why they have the most successful religion and the most successful government ever invented in the minds of people.
Mm. Wow. All righty, let's do this. Let me see. Let me go here. Okay, let me go here. TalkTameItRadio.com. Now, we go where you go, and you can check us out here locally on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available. All you have to do is download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Now, I need you to stay right there. We have more phone calls on the line, so hang on. And hopefully we will get to your Gmails. I've been trying to get to a couple of them, but we've been backed up with phone calls, which is good. Okay, that's coming up next on TalkTameItRadio.com. Radio the way it should be heard.
For the best home fragrance and beauty products, shop Ash Cooking online.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Made with 100% natural quality ingredients and handcrafted with your family in mind, Ash Cooking products are better than those other guys. ash-kicking candles, incense, body butter, face moisturizer, and hair moisturizer are priced just right. And you can get yours at 10% off with coupon code TALK17. Support this 100% black-owned business and get your home and body smelling and feeling all right.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Shop Ash Kicking online at www.ashkickin.com.
Are you ready for a high school that allows you to work at a place that is right for you? Are you ready to earn a certification in healthcare, business, or manufacturing while achieving your high school diploma? Then you are ready for Life Skills High School, a free public school option for high school students 16 to 21 years old. Learn more about your free high school educational options at lifeskillshs.org or call them at 1-800-888-7992. Life Skills High School, education that fits your life.
Robe is an intriguing, riveting, mysterious novel written on forgiveness by Renee Smith. Order your copy today at Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. That's The Robe by Renee Smith.
Every year, June marks the beginning of two busy seasons, summer and wedding season. If you are legally changing your name, you need to apply for a replacement Social Security card reflecting your new name. This is easier to fix now when you first change your name than years from now when you retire. So go to our website at www.socialsecurity.gov/SS number or call us at 1-800-772-1213, TTY 1-800-325-0778 to find out what specific documents you need to change your name and apply for a replacement card.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
This is Al Robinson, owner of the Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
I've got the water, energy bars, and camera. I think we're set for the hike.
Almost. We need to protect our skin. Don't forget your wide-brimmed hat and sunscreen.
All right. I've got the hat. I've got SPF 30. Will that work?
Yeah, anything 15 or higher is good. Just make sure it says broad spectrum.
Great. Got it. I am not getting burned again. Let's go.
Learn more at cdc.gov/cancer.
We thank you for your emails and your feedback. And we are working very hard for you. We have supported the Compensatory Code since 1975. We believe that it is the only system of thought, speech, and action that enables us to move in the correct direction to work toward the production of justice. But right now, we need your help. If we're going to continue the Compensatory Concept show each week, we need your support. Now, we thank you and deeply appreciate what you've already donated. Please help us to continue to get the Compensatory Code system of thought, speech, and action out. Please donate today. Go to TalkTainmentRadio.com and hit the yellow donate button on the front page. Donate today. We appreciate any amount that you can give. We thank you so much.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And we have basically an open forum where Mr. Fuller and I are talking about racism, which is white supremacy, and we are taking your calls. You can call in at 1-877-932-9766. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY at gmail.com. You can also go to the YouTube channel, type in the word Talktainment, hit the space bar, type in the word radio, and then scroll down to Talktainment number 2 live on YouTube. While you are there, hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to hear the replay of the entire show, go to talktainmentradio.com, podcast, and type in the compensatory concept, which is the way that we would prefer that you do. But you can also go to facebook.com/Talktainment, and you can hear yourself in the entire program. I'm going to make a little announcement, but not right now. I'm going to take this phone call. Go ahead, caller. You are now on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Is that me? Are you there?
Yes, that's you.
Hi. I just want to thank you, Bobby and Mr. Fuller. You're just very knowledgeable, and I just respect you so much, and thank you so much for your mind and your intelligence. And my question is, just like we have white racism and supremacy, why is the majority of melanated black people across the globe don't have what I would call black supremacy? The black is the most important thing that you implement in your children's lives, so that the European indoctrination through the school system, through the media, through the music, will not alter their respect for sex and their ancestral. See that happening here in Atlanta, Georgia. And again, I want to thank you.
Okay, ma'am. I don't know if Mr. Fuller could hear all that because I'm hearing that you're breaking up. Last word I really heard was something like black supremacy or whatever, but then the rest of it is chopped up. Mr. Fuller, could you hear her?
No, I couldn't hear her.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear the question. Could she shorten her question?
Okay, ma'am. Mr. Fuller.
Or at least just ask one part of the question at a time.
Okay, Mr. Fuller asked that could you could you shorten your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, as you were saying, of course there is the racism of white supremacy, but how it can lead the melanated dark race to the black race or the non-white race begin to implement the supremacy of the black race, meaning upholding the information that goes into the minds of our children and into our minds through watching out how we pay attention to what's going on around us.
Mr.
I really don't understand the question. I couldn't hear most of it.
No, I wonder why. Basically, it's just that, Bobby, can you hear me?
I can hear some of it, but I tell you what, if you Gmail me, I know you want him to answer it on the air, but if you Gmail me, I will have the staff put it at the front so he can address your question and keep it kind of short so that he can concentrate on the core of your question so that it can be answered sufficiently for you. Is that okay with you?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
I apologize for. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes due to technicalities, and I'm not sure why that actually happens, but I will say this, as my team has discovered, and I don't know why this happened, so it's not necessarily the caller's fault, but this particular show seems to have some type of interference that when Mr. Fuller speaks, I think they're referred to as the usual suspects. This happens, and I don't know why, except for I think that maybe they don't want the message that Mr. Fuller is suggesting and getting out. So I think the word sabotage comes into it, but I cannot prove that, especially with the way the electronics and the technologies are. But don't give up. Just if you can't get it this way, then Gmail me. Speaking about Gmails, let's do this. The one I've been trying to get to. The question for Mr. Fuller, this comes from Joy. She says this, Mr. Fuller, if it is true that all persons classified as black or of color have been deemed totally inferior to those who classify themselves as white, deemed subjects to white people, and white supremacists, and are therefore sentenced to live out existence as prisoners in a prison system created and controlled by white supremacists, what would be the logical and compensatory reason for a so-called black person to have a child?
Oh, the reason is because you can have a child, so you have that child with the intention, even in a prison system, you're having a child in a prison, of helping you to, to the best of your ability, you incorporate that child into your counter-racist plans. Because you got to have people in order to get rid of racism. Racism is all about people. So you just keep the people coming. And someone may come up, some child that is born will say, you all have been standing around trying to solve this problem forever, and I just got here yesterday, but I can see right through what's going on. And I have the procedures that we can follow. And now, this has happened all down through history. In what we call basically problem solving. You might have 2,000 years ago, you would have a family of maybe 12 people, and they keep having children, but child number 7 out of the 12 figures out how to double the crops for a family that's a farm family. They had that child. It was just like the other children as far as they were concerned, but somehow that child had a gift, you might say, because that's where everything comes from anyway. Whatever created us, that's a gift. This particular child, that 7th child, took a look at how they were running the farm and say, I can quadruple, the crops that we're getting on this land. You all are not handling this land correctly. By the time I was 10 years old, I could see that. And I couldn't figure it all out, but I went to the drawing board, even though, the family consists of 11 people here, and all together. But I'm the 7th child, but I started working on, hey, how can we improve our crop yield? And I figured it out, Daddy and Mommy, all right, and the sisters and brothers and whatnot. So that's why you should have, if you can, and you're going to have difficulty because the white supremacist always makes it difficult for any non-white people to what you call have any input, even in their own offspring, in this prison system called the system of white supremacy. If you have an offspring, if you have a child, that child is born in prison just like you were born in prison. If you're on this planet and you're a person of color in 2018, you were born in prison, okay? And if you have an offspring, that offspring is also born in that prison cell with you. And both of you come under the warden's dictatorship. But that child that you have, you might have been there forever in that prison, but that child that you have might figure out a way, hey, you know what? I figured out a way to get out of here, Daddy. You didn't figure it out, but your offspring did.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the way that works.
Okay.
So if you can in any way sustain a child with the help, naturally, of the people that run the prison, because they determine they are our real illegitimate parents now. We are really not fathers and mothers. If you're a black person, you are not a father and you're not a mother. You're a prisoner of war. And all prisoners of war are equal. And you are beholden to the people that run the prison, who are the white supremacists of this world, if you're a person of color. So you're in their prison. So you cannot be a mother and a father to anybody. You can produce a child, but you're a child yourself. You're just children producing children. Why? Because you're in a childlike position. You're under the authority of people who are more powerful than you are and who are hostile to you. That takes away all of your husband and wife and parenting power altogether.
Altogether, okay. TalkTameItRadio.com, we go where you go. Download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And at this particular time, this is where we allow and want Mr. Fuller to discuss his book. And not only to discuss his book, we want you to purchase that book so you can have your copy of it. Not just listen and then go on about your business, but purchase that book. Mr. Fuller, the floor is yours.
You can go get the book by going to producejustice.com. That's PRODUCE, justice. Producejustice.com. Because ultimately, what you want to do, presumably, or should want to do, is replace the system of racism with a better system. And that system, presumably, logically speaking, would be justice. Why? Because racism is a non-just system. It's a system designed to mistreat people. Justice means no one is mistreated, and that the person that needs help the most at any given time gets the most constructive help. You try to make that type of worldly system. You replace the system in place. You go to the book, and the book tells an individual what he or she can do on a daily basis to erode the system of white supremacy and replace it with justice. And there's a lot of ingredients that go into that erosion process. You want to actually eliminate that system that's in place. But go to the textbook for victims of white supremacy. That's one of the supplementary titles. I have actually 3 titles of the book. That might be kind of weird to do that, but that's what I chose to do because I thought that it was functional. It might help even to have 3 titles of the same book. The broader title is Textbook Workbook for Thought, Speech, and Action for Victims of White Supremacy. And I put that in there to make it more explicit about what the book is about, because a compensatory counter-racist code, that's not specific enough. And certainly the main title of the book, the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, doesn't tell you anything, except on the inside, those words are explained. But the book is addressed to the individual victim, the non-white person who is the victim of white supremacy, and what you can do about it on a daily basis, because it comes down to what people do by the millions each and every day. And you have to have a quantum number of people doing it. This thing is not going to work unless you have a large number of people over a period of time doing the things that are in this book and not doing the things that are recommended in the book. The things to do, the things not to do. But you can get the book and the extended book, extension to the book, called a word guide, a compensatory counter-racist word guide, by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com.
All righty. Producejustice.com. Before I take the phone call, hopefully in this segment, Mr. Fuller, last week you used the explanation of the term MF. That's one of the reasons why I think my Gmail is blown off. But we have a question here that we're not going to do right now. We're going to do after we take this phone call. So stay tuned for that one. Okay, caller, you are now on That's right. You are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. What is your question?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. This is Malcolm from Orlando. I have two real quick questions. My first question is for you, Mr. Bobby. I've been hearing on the past couple of shows about donating to the show. How much is needed to keep the show continue? Because I haven't heard anything about a specific number.
Okay, that part I don't know. I was just forwarded the information that we've done ever since we turned to the second hour to ask for people to give, donation, because a lot of people, and that's a good question you asked, don't understand that there's lights, there's cameras, there are phone lines that have to be, mortgages and so forth. There's so much involved in that, and specifically because the people wanted a second hour of the compensatory concept. They did not get enough for the first hour, so Talktainment eats the first hour, and I don't get paid, and Mr. Fuller doesn't get paid for that, so we're not involved in that. But because the people wanted it so much that this was created, but in creating that, it requires that it be supplemented by monies, and that's why we ask for the donations for the second hour only. Some people do listen to this program and ask questions, call in, but they never give a dime for that. I'm not complaining about that, but that's not right, because nothing is free. Okay, so anyway, that's what that is about. Go ahead with your question for Mr. Fuller.
Mr. Fuller, do you think or do you believe that white supremacy is white culture? And if white culture is white supremacy and vice versa, would it be logically to think that white supremacy will never end itself? And thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, with anything that people invent or anything that people start, people can stop doing it and start doing something else. But that's why I call it the compensatory system. Everything is compensatory, meaning you're making up for what's missing. So in order for white people, and this is going to be difficult for them to change their minds about this thing about racism, you're going to have to make them an offer. Somebody's going to have to make them an offer. People don't give up anything that's working for them unless you can see where they can have something else that works for them, doing the same thing depending on what it is that they want. Now, if they want to just keep mistreating people, then they'll just keep the system of white supremacy. But they have to make that clear. And, but part of the white supremacist culture is to not make things clear, to pretend that they believe in justice when they don't. But justice is an alternative. It's the only alternative to the system of white supremacy. White supremacy is about mistreating people. Justice is about not mistreating people. It isn't rocket science. This is not rocket science. You just stop mistreating people. You just come up with a system where nobody's mistreated. You say, we're just not going to tolerate anybody being mistreated now. I mean, white supremacy is all about swaggering around, pounding yourself on the chest and bragging about mistreating people, killing people, causing people to run around doing crazy things and killing themselves. I mean, that's enjoyment. That's the whole concept of racism. Keep mess going, as old folks used to say. Just keep a whole lot of mess going. I mean, if things quiet down and everybody's acting decent toward one another, and everybody's, you might say, the image of Mr. Rogers. Oh, no, that's not white supremacy. White supremacy is about, hey, it's too quiet around here. I mean, everything is going too smooth. Everybody's happy. Everybody is treating everybody nicely. Well, now, you can't have that. No. White supremacy is about guns, thunder, bombs going off, people being blown up, writing books and loading down the shelves in the bookstores about how to commit murder, and enjoy it. And, hey, this is fun. This is glory. I mean, everything gets boring. You start talking about having a world of justice. That's boring. Nobody being mistreated. That's boring. People getting the help that they need. people all healthy and whatnot and getting along and coming around each other, greeting each other, and trying to see if they can be of help to someone rather than trying to figure out how they can kill them or sneak up on them, and trick them into doing something stupid and whatnot. Oh, no, that's not white supremacist culture at all. No. And, we don't want that. We want something that keeps you alive. That's what they call living. Mistreating people. For what? For fun, for glory, and material gain. You can get the same thing to the system of justice. But they are so in the habit of practicing non-justice that they're just dedicated to it, just drunk on it. But it's our job to see to it that it stops. Why? Because it never should have been started in the first place. You're not supposed to be running this precious world like that. The evidence shows that.
Yes.
They'll poison animals and everything else and having them acting crazy. Now, the white supremacists probably didn't start that, but whoever started mistreating anything, including the environment, mistreatment spreads. It's a virus. And once you started just a little bit of it anywhere, it spreads rapidly. Why? Because mistreatment is exciting. And a lot of people just like to keep excitement going, even if it means being very, very, very destructive. Video games. Kill somebody. That's what it's all about. You can't have a decent video game about helping somebody. Mr. Rogers, that's boring. That's boring. That's not progressive at all. Tear up something. Kill something. And if you got people and start telling people that they are animals, boy, how much fun can you have out of that? Call a person an animal, and you hunt down animals. You kill animals. You kill chickens every day in factories. So, hey, why not kill people the same way? By putting an animal label on them. And black people in the system of white supremacy are what? Animals. You see that word keep coming up every now and then. Recently it came up. Didn't we talk about what? This Roseanne program? Hello?
Yeah, you're there.
Didn't somebody say something about animal?
Yeah, they did.
All right. Monkey or something like that, that's an animal. Okay. Kill the monkeys. Kill the rhinos. Kill the apes. Kill the elephants. Why? Because they're animals. Not only kill it, kill that animal, that elephant, kill the elephant, and do what? Cut his head off.
Cut his head off.
And then what? Put it over the mantelpiece.
Yes.
And then do what? Invite your neighbors over to take a look at it.
Yeah, look at it.
That's white supremacist thinking. Just like they do with that elephant's head, they'll do the same thing with black people.
They will.
And they are doing it every day.
They will. They will do that. All right.
Animals.
Definitely. In the control room, I'm going to take the call on the second hour because we don't really have enough time to do it here on the first hour. So caller, hang on, and we will get to you. What I want to get to, Mr. Fuller, is that you made a comment last week, and I'm up here efforting, trying to get this so I can do it correctly here. Wait a minute here, I'm messing up here. Let me relax here and get this out of here. It was about the word MF that you used last week, and I want to read what one of our Gmailers has said. But guess what? I hear the music, so I'm not going to get a chance to do it right now. TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour, and thanks for the pleasure of your time. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Alrighty, welcome to the second hour of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. You are listening to it via TalkTainmentRadio.com. That is radio the way it should be heard. I am the co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is the radio the way it should be heard. Mr. Fuller and I have been discussing in the first hour racism, white supremacy, and which is white supremacy, and have been inviting your questions and hopefully get to your Gmails here. And we do appreciate your questions. And when you call in, you have to remember, this is the donate hour. So we will be pushing that because this is the second hour that you requested and wanted, and we wanted to do this. Mr. Fuller and myself are not compensated in any way for doing this. This is truly a love to do that. But things must be paid. So you're going to hear a special announcement later on concerning that. Before I read the Gmail, let's go to the phone call. Caller, whatever you're doing, you need to stop that because it is coming right through the phone lines, and it's kind of hard to hear. Now you are on, caller, with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Bobby, Mr.
Hello.
Fuller. Hello. I have a question for Mr. Fuller, and I hope it's not insulting, only because it's not dealing with logic. And I understand logic and critical thinking very well, and I appreciate that. But my question about white supremacy for Mr. Fuller is, does he consider the spiritual aspect to white supremacy, or is it just strictly a logical situation as far as he's concerned?
Mr. Fuller?
If I understand the question, is white supremacy logical? No. Logic just means cause and effect. And this depends on where the value comes from, what you value, what you think is important. That's when anybody sets out to do anything. What is that you want to do? Why do you want to do it? How do you plan to do it? And what do you expect the result to be? And hopefully, the result should be constructive. But somebody thought up a system of government that they thought should dominate the entire world, and that system of government was called the system of white supremacy. They didn't give it that title, but that's what it turned out to be, in capital letters. And they use logic to do it. Like you have to use logic to go to the moon. You have to use logic to bake an apple pie. You have to use logic to have adequate transportation. You're going to set up a transportation system. You have to use logic to do that. You say, okay, well, how many people are we going to transport? Well, how many people can we get in that rail car? Well, logically speaking, we can get people on the in that rail car. You can't have any more than 30 people in that rail car. Why? Because you only have 30 seats, and you don't have enough aisle space. So everybody has to sit down. So that will be the limit. So they'll put that on the side of the car. They're using logic to do that. So it just depends on what you set out to do. First, you set out to do something, then you figure out everything that it takes to get it done. So somebody thought up, let's have a system of government based on what color people are. A whole world government based on what color people are. What color people are, how? The color of the skin. Oh, the color of the skin. Oh, okay, well, what about the teeth and the toenails and whatnot? Well, no, it'll just be based on the color of the skin. Okay, all right, color of the skin, and we're going to have a government based on that. Now, how will that government work? Well, everybody who we say has color in their skin is, logically speaking, going to be considered to be a person that you can mistreat, and nobody's supposed to do anything about it. And you can use them for whatever you want to use them for in all areas of activity.
Yes.
Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war. Just use them for whatever, okay? And that'll be a category of people, and we'll call them non-white. Now, everybody who is classified as white will be royal. That will be your superior people. That will be the people that give all the orders. And we'll do it in order to achieve what? Fun, glory, and material comfort, which is something all creatures want, including animals. Fun, glory, material comfort. And we'll get those things. And let's try that on for size. But we'll have to have a logical code for doing so. Because we can't skip over anything. We got to have a way to control these people all the time and get benefits from them all the time based on mistreating them on the basis of color. It turned out to be the most powerful idea that people have ever invented.
Oh, okay. Caller, go ahead. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, because, okay, the thing is, with the white supremacy, evidently logic wasn't the only aspect that they came up with, because they incorporated religion as a means to control us more so than logic, because, you know, so my question, I know that they did do that, and you're right about what you said, but my question is about, okay, the Hebrew Israelites are reading from the King James Bible, and they're saying that black people are the original Israelites. And my question is, with the rise of this Satanism and worshiping the devil and all of that, because of the Hebrews out there preaching that the white people are the devil, and with them seemingly accepting it and embracing their God, I was just wondering, does Mr. Fuller even consider any of that at all? That's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fuller?
I consider all things that I hear about. But when you say consider, it means I just think about it. And I listen to everybody. I want white people to say what's on their minds. I mean, when they say that black people are inferior, that doesn't send me running to hide up under the covers. I say, if you think that, say it. Say what you think. Otherwise, you're a hypocrite. That's the worst thing that a person can be. And so the code calls for me to say, everybody stand up and be counted and say what they actually think. Because whatever you think, you're going to act on what you really think.
Yes, sir. Yes,
all right? Everybody does. You know, whether you let everybody know that you'll do that or not. But people act on what they're thinking about doing more than anything. Okay? So if people will reveal what they're thinking, you'll just about know what they do if they tell the truth when they're revealing that. So therefore, and speaking of logic and religion and whatnot, religion is logic. And logic is religion. Everything has a logic to it, because what is logic? Logic is just cause and effect. So people who are members of any religious order, they believe in cause and effect. In other words, things that you do, things that you don't do. That's what cause and effect is. Things you do things that you don't do. So that takes in religion too. Religion, logic, everything that's done is done according to some type of logic. By whom? By the person who is doing it.
Right.
See, that's all logic is.
Right.
Cause and effect.
Yeah, that's mentioned when you go through the 9 areas, the 9 basic areas of human activity.
People activity.
People.
Right,
see,
because
people
there are
activity.
no human beings in the system of white supremacy.
Excuse
they
me.
don't allow. The system of white supremacy does not allow people to be humane.
Okay, people activity. My bad. Excuse me. Okay, this is going to the Gmails. Last week you made a couple of strong statements about the MF word, and one of the people wrote in and says, Mr. Fuller, my take on anything that whites say or do is this: if they are guilty of it, then they project it onto us so they can get relief from the guilt and shame of their lack of morals. We never had sex with our mothers by choice. It was forced on us. Whites have sex with their parents all the time, and it's consensual. Not to mention with animals as well, since they have animal DNA in them too. So when we say MFers, it's just someone we don't like, and that person is the real MFer, the white man and the woman who love screwing their parents and anything else that will screw back. Then they have incest porn along with their other MILF porn, whatever that is, bestiality, etc. Not human. We have to keep that in mind. Mr. Fuller, what is your thought on that?
Well, that comes under VGQ, victims guarantee. If it's the person who is saying that is a person of color, they can say that. That's their view. Why? Because under VGQ, a person who is a prisoner of war in the system of white supremacy, a victim of white supremacy, can say anything that he or she chooses to say about race, racism, or counter-racism. Why? Because the race problem hasn't been solved. So the way you solve any problem is for everybody to have their point of view, white and non-white. If you're going to solve a problem, and this problem that we call the race problem, everyone who has a point of view on the race problem should be able to say what that point of view is. And then out of all of that talk, at some point, when you study everybody, everything that everybody has to say, you might be able to find something out of the millions of things being said that will actually be the solution to the problem.
Okay, if
that's true of every problem.
If that's being said, then who is the real MFer?
Oh, I don't know. I can't answer that question. The people who are using the term, I don't use the term. I don't call anybody that, ever, under any circumstance.
But you heard it in the service. You even said that last week. That
yes, but I didn't use it.
Yeah, I didn't say that you. Yes. I didn't say that you used it.
When I was a sergeant, I didn't. Which is why I didn't make what you might call in the military any kind of respectable sergeant. Because if you were any kind of respectable sergeant when I was in, you use every 4-letter word and every 8-letter word. Anything that sounded like it was profane was considered to be a part of your job. And if you didn't do that, they say that you no way can you be a sergeant in the Army. I mean, you're supposed to be extremely profane.
Okay.
And that needs to be pointed out even today, because you can lose your job. I mean, out here, if I go on, on a job as in a lumber company today, and I start walking around using the kind of language toward people that they use in what they call the honorable military service, I wouldn't last on any job. So why do they do that in the military? That's a question people can ask who are in the military. Why are you talking to me like that? Not necessary for you to talk to me like that in order to get this job done.
Did you ask that question yourself?
I asked myself that question, but I dare not ask that question to someone who could put me in the stockade, because that's exactly where they would put me.
Okay. Let me do this. TalkTameRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I'm going to share with you. It's called let me do two. All in the Family with S. Yolanda Robinson. And, of course, This is Libby. Two outstanding shows that premiere here on TalkTameRadio.com. If you do not know anything about these shows, I suggest that you can go to TalkTameRadio.com, click on programs for scheduled times, and you'll find out all the information on not only those shows, but other shows that we feature here on Talktainment Radio, radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. We are discussing, Mr. Fuller and I, the aspects of racism, which are white supremacy, and we are taking your phone calls and trying to slide in a few Gmails. Phone calls are up next. Okay, caller, you are now on with Mr. Neely Fuller. What is your question?
Good morning, brothers. My name is Gregory from Florida. I have two comments. I was also questioning the word SOB, how Trump even used it in its origins, and I would be willing to bet you that's going back to white supremacy as well, like the NF word. And I would like Mr. Fuller's comment on that. And I guess my second question would be also that I heard a white guy who was from the Klan talking about they had a shirt on saying that the boys in the hood, and they said that everything that they provide for us to live in an environment is things that is to bring us down. That's why they don't even have to go out and do things, and they become more refined because we're doing things to ourselves.
Okay, Mr. Fuller, the second question first.
The second question was?
Well, I just wanted to comment more or less because I heard a gentleman who was in the Klan, and they had a shirt on that said boys in the hood, and they said that, yeah, they're the real boys in the hood because they provide all these different means and things for us to destroy ourselves, and that they are refined because they're literally doing the things that they want us to do to ourselves.
Oh, okay. Those are the white supremacists that are doing that, correct?
Yeah, this is actual man from the Klan, white supremacists, yes.
Okay, Mr. Fuller?
Well, that's not really a question, is it? Or is it?
No, he said it was a comment. He said it was a comment.
It was a comment. I just, and also, I guess the question would be about the word SOB too, just its origins, because I would be willing to bet it's like the word MF, like you just were talking about.
The origins of SOB?
Yes.
Okay, Mr.
I mean, you may not exactly know it, but this is a thought on it.
I don't know the origins of any of what you might call popular profanity and whatnot. But I have in the textbook that all non-white people should avoid using profanity.
Okay.
Why? Because it's not functional. What are you using it for? What are you trying to do with it? When you walk around all day, saying SOB and MF and what are you trying to accomplish? What is it you're trying to accomplish? That's a question. Are you trying to communicate an idea? Are you trying to get something done? And is that the way to go about doing it in the best possible manner? Because codification is about going about doing everything without exception in the best possible manner. In other words, anything that you do or say, you should try to do it according to the code better than it will ever be done or ever be said. Now, that's a whole new level of thinking for black people in the Northwestern Hemisphere, particularly. Everything that you do and everything that you say is precisely better than it could ever be done, not how it's been done. Everything that you say it in a way that no one in 10 million years will ever say it better. That should be your goal.
Okay.
All right? That's a whole new level of thinking altogether, and that's what we need. According to what? Logic.
According to logic. Okay. Alrighty. Let's go to the Gmails here. This comes from a brother from South Africa. He says this. In the black conscious community, Mr. Fuller, many have begun to move away from the term, quote, white supremacy, end quote, to describe the types of white people we have ruling over us. Instead, they have chosen to use terms like, quote, white inferiority, end quote, and, quote, white fragility, end quote, which to them best sums up why these white supremacists operate in the manner that they do, from openly discriminating against us to physically harming us. Mr. Fuller, I would like your thoughts on these two terms, white inferiority and white fragility. Thank you very much.
I don't know. I haven't heard anybody using that in a popular sense, but if anybody's doing it, to the extent that the white supremacist has anything to do with it, it's just another gimmick to maintain white supremacy. Because anything that they do is to throw people off, like prize fighters, or football players, or anybody who's in what you call gamemanship. What you do, a checker player, a chess player, you do things to divert people's attention in a direction that you will make them most vulnerable.
Yes.
So the white supremacists will sometimes come around, and say that, hey, I'm not telling anybody what to do. Actually, you're telling me what to do. And I'm weak. I don't have any authority of any kind. They do that all the time.
Is that true?
Oh, yeah, they do that all over the world when it's convenient for them.
Okay, when it's convenient. Okay.
But the whole idea is to make you think that they're weak when they're really strong.
That's right.
Okay? And in order to do what? In order to exercise their strength.
Yes.
They call it sucker punching. And when you start talking about boxing.
Yes.
The person suddenly, what you call blindsides you. Why? Because you weren't expecting the person to hit you.
You didn't see it coming.
Right, you didn't see it coming. That's the white supremacists. They are masters of that because they see to it that you never see it coming.
Yeah.
All right? Sometimes 100 years ahead of time. They'll start doing little things. They'll make it look like they're doing one thing. They're master magicians. All right? They're doing one thing when really they're doing something else. But you'll find this out 6 months later. All right? You'll say, oh, I was looking right at them, but I thought that they were doing this. They weren't doing that at all.
Yeah, you thought.
Yeah, you thought they were doing that. Okay? They were, sleight of hand. Any magician on the stage does that all the time.
All the time.
They are the greatest magicians that has ever appeared on the planet Earth.
Right in front of you. Okay. Again, from the Gmails, this brother's from England. He says this, Mr. Fuller, in the space of less than 6 months, black people all over the world went from celebrating a fictional royal family in Wakanda to celebrating a white supremacist criminal syndicate royal family in the United Kingdom. If this is not a perfect example of mass confusion amongst us, then I don't know what is. Mr. Fuller, I would appreciate your counter-racist views on this, please, with regard, Anthony.
I haven't seen the movie, but I'll say right out of the code book, to the extent that a white supremacist has anything to do with it at all, either directly or indirectly, the intent always is to give strength to the system of white supremacy. And I'll refer back to what I just said a minute or two ago. They are magicians. See, they know how the mind works.
Uh-huh.
So if the white supremacists had anything to do with the making of that movie, or if it's done with their approval, look for the hidden things in it somewhere, because it might be buried somewhere in it. They'll make it look like one thing when something else is happening. And what you look at it is, the main test is, look at the result in the way people think. All right? Because everything starts with the way people think. The white supremacists, anything that they do is designed, even though it may not appear to be that way on the surface, but ultimately they intend for the effect to be given greater strength to the system of white supremacy, even though it looks like it's doing just the opposite.
Okay.
And that's anything that they do. I don't care what it is. That's one of their methods. And they are the best in the world at it. I don't care how it looks on the surface. They'll say, well, this is really great for black people. I mean, this is a real step forward. Yes, it'll look like that on the surface. But somewhere down the road, that's when the bombs start going off. They'll plant it in there.
Okay. Let me take this call here. Go ahead, caller. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead, caller.
Greetings, sir, and greetings, Mr. Fuller. My question is, what is your compensatory codified response to death in non-white people's care units?
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
You mean somebody dies?
Yes.
In family?
Yes.
What we call family? Well, you always look forward to death. There's an old saying, that they say it's an old Asian saying. Somebody said it's a Japanese saying. Life begins with death. In other words, you were dead before you were born. So you expect that. You expect death. Death is a part of being here, a part of existence. So you come into the world, people do not grieve. People, when they come into the world, you don't grieve because they weren't here before they got here. So, for some reason, we grieve after they have been here a while, and then they pass away. Then we grieve. We say, that's very unfortunate. But why didn't we grieve before they were born? You say, sooner or later, somebody will be born in this family. So let's mourn where they are now, because you don't know where they are now, just like you don't know where they are when they leave. Right. You just know about when they are here. So it's understandable because we missed the person. But we have to understand. We're talking about death now, D-E-A-T-H. The leaves on the trees, they die. All right? And they are, and according to some religions, they say the same thing happens to people. I don't know if it's true or false. They say people are recycled. They just come back somewhere else. All right? There are some religions. Some people say some parts of the Hindu religion is like that. They say you're recycled. You come back, but you don't come back in the same form you were when you left. You might come back as an insect. All right? You might come back as a rhinoceros. Because they say everything in the universe is unified. Scientists say matter is never created or destroyed. Once it is created by a creator, it just gets recycled in some other form.
Okay. All righty. Sir, thank you so much for your question. Thank you for listening, and hopefully your donation. Have a good day, sir. Thank you. Okay. I guess could be said that everything that lives must die?
Yes. And some people have said that, unlike Methuselah, they said Methuselah lived 900 years or something
969 years.
But even if you lived 1,000 years, so that's 1,000 years. Well, why not live 10 trillion years?
Yes.
Okay? So it just depends on, Well, things do wear out. Bodies are made to wear out. Whatever created us made us to wear out. You start dying from the day that you were born.
All righty. TalkTameItRadio.com. We go where you go. Check us out on 94.1 WGRN. Podcasts are available. Download the TalkTameItRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Stay right there. Got some hot Gmails coming up and more of your phone calls.
For the best home fragrance and beauty products, shop Ash Kitchen online.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Made with 100% natural quality ingredients and handcrafted with your family in mind, Ash Kitchen products are better than those other guys. Ash Kitchen candles, incense, body butter, face moisturizer, and hair moisturizer are priced just right, and you can get yours at 10% off with coupon code TALK17. Support this 100% black-owned business and get your home and body smelling and feeling all right.
That's ASHKICKIN.
Shop Ash Kitchen online at www.ashkickin.com.
Are you ready for a high school that allows you to work at a place that is right for you? Are you ready to earn a certification in healthcare, business, or manufacturing while achieving your high school diploma? Then you are ready for Life Skills High School, a free public school option for high school students 16 to 21 years old. Learn more about your free high school educational options at lifeskillshs.org or call them at 1-800-888-7992. Life Skills High School, education that fits your life.
Robe is an intriguing, riveting, mysterious novel written on forgiveness by Renee Smith. Order your copy today at Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com. That's The Robe by Renee Smith.
Every year, June marks the beginning of two busy seasons, summer and wedding season. If you are legally changing your name, you need to apply for a replacement Social Security card reflecting your new name. This is easier to fix now when you first change your name than years from now when you retire. So go to our website at www.socialsecurity.gov/SS number or call us at 1-800-772-1213, TTY 1-800-325-0778 to find out what specific documents you need to change your name and apply for a replacement card.
If you or someone you know is abusing drugs and or alcohol and want to stop the abuse, contact APDS at 1409 East Livingston Avenue. Office hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. daily and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. APDS is certified by the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and primarily funded through the Adam H. Board. Fees are based on your income and Medicaid is always accepted. For more information, call 614-253-4448.
This is Al Edmondson, owner of a Cutter Brother Rest Barbershop. I'm calling on all barbers and beauticians. It's time for us to unite as one. We can serve our communities better together. Join the Ohio Black Barber Beauty Network. For more information, visit www.obbn.org or call 614-427-3226 to get more information. Be the change that you want to see in your community. Join our network.
I've got the water, energy bars, and camera. I think we're set for the hike.
Almost. We need to protect our skin. Don't forget your wide-brimmed hat and sunscreen.
All right. I've got the hat. I've got SPF 30. Will that work?
Yeah, anything 15 or higher is good. Just make sure it says broad spectrum.
Great. Got it. I am not getting burned again. Let's go.
Learn more at cdc.gov/cancer.
We thank you for your emails and your feedback. And we are working very hard for you. We have supported the Compensatory Code since 1975. We believe that it is the only system of thought, speech, and action that enables us to move in the correct direction to work toward the production of justice. But right now, we need your help. If we're going to continue the Compensatory Concept show each week, we need your support. Now, we thank you and deeply appreciate what you've already donated. Please help us to continue to get the Compensatory Code system of thought, speech, and action out. Please donate today. Go to TalkTainmentRadio.com and hit the yellow donate button on the front page. Donate today. We appreciate any amount that you can give. We thank you so much.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Go ahead. Make my day.
You got the power.
All right. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. I am Mr. Bobby, the co-host on the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and he has been answering your phone calls, and basically it's been an open forum. Mr. Fuller and I have been discussing racism, which is white supremacy, or white supremacy, which is racism, whichever way you want to turn it. And we've been taking your phone calls and your Gmails. And speaking of Gmails, I have one for you right now, and this is from Jane. Jane Lance, as a matter of fact, and she doesn't mind if I use her whole name. Most people, I will not use your entire name, but she is one of our loyal listeners and also loyal supporters. We have a list of people who donate regularly all through the year, and she's one of them. Anyway, she wrote this, Mr. Fuller. She says, well, first of all, Mr. Fuller, greetings to you. Do you know what the Stockholm Syndrome is? Mr. Fuller, do you know what that is? Or have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, and I've kind of forgotten the details of it. Okay. But generally speaking, I have an understanding of what that is.
Oh, okay. She says that the Stockholm, well, I looked it up. The Stockholm Syndrome is a condition that causes hostages to develop a psychological alliance with their captors as a survival strategy during captivity. It was formally named in 1973 when 4 hostages were taken during a bank robbery in Stockholm. Now let me go back to her question. Since you have heard of it a little bit, her question, Mr. Fuller, is, Mr. Fuller, do you think that non-white people who deny the existence of racism, white supremacy, suffer from the Stockholm Syndrome?
Those that do, and those that don't. That's the answer. That's the only answer I can correctly give, according to the code. I mean, those who believe that. That's what I mean. That's self-evident. I mean, and they will act accordingly. And those that don't will act accordingly. That's what you go by.
Okay.
So, you know, it kind of takes care of itself in a functional sense. People, there are some black people who say that racism doesn't exist.
I've heard that from some black people, yes.
And so when they say that to me, I say, well, my writings and the things that I'm saying do not apply to you, because you have concluded that there is no problem. So it's not my job to give you a problem that you don't have. I mean, you've made the decision that you don't have a problem, not a race problem. But you might have some other problem, but you say you don't have a race problem. If you say that to me, then what I have written is a book that's based on the premise that there is a race problem, and that it causes people to suffer. But a person who says, I'm not suffering from anything called what Fuller calls some white supremacy. Ain't nobody supreme over me. I mean, I'm supreme over myself. I do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Now, it's not my position, according to the code, to argue with anyone who says that. In fact, the code prohibits me from arguing with any black person about anything. I would just listen to their point of view, and then I'll give mine.
Okay.
And that's the end of that.
Yes, sir.
These are just points of view. Okay. And that's the way I'm supposed to take it. Not as an offense, not up or down or sideways. It just is what it is. A point of view.
Okay.
Why? Based on what? VGQ. All prisoners of war are equal.
Okay.
So there are viewpoints out there in the prison yard. One prisoner says, I like the prison. And the other prisoner says, I can't stand this place. Well,